Hey, hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel with Miss Alona Silpatiarma. So now in this video, I'd like to explain about the language maintenance and save in EFL context. Okay, so here we go. So the first one, I'd like to explain about the language saves in different communities. So there are 3 points in this material. The first one is migrant minorities. So there are many different social factors which can lead a community to save from using one language for most purposes to using a different language, or from using to distrain codes in different domains to using different varieties of this one language for their communities communicative needs. So, for examples, in countries like England, Australia, New Zealand, and in the USA, the school is one of the first domains in which children of migrant families meet English. So they may have watched English TV programs or and heard English used in shops before starting school, but at school they are expected to interact in English. So they have to use English. Okay, next, the second one is non-migrant minorities. Okay, language saves is not always the result of migrations, but can also be caused by political, economic, and social change. For example, in Iran, Fars is a threat to minority ethnic languages, and speakers of Azeri are shifting to Fars in a number of domains. And then in Oberwart, Austria, the community has been gradually shifting from Hungarian to German for some time. In the 1920s, Oberwart was a small place, and the peasants used Hungarian to each other and German with outsiders. Okay, next the third one is about majorities. Okay, language shifts is often driven by political and economic factors, such as the need for work. When colonial powers invade other countries, their languages often become dominant, but this has not always resulted in linguistic subjections and language shifts. And then English has been described as a killer language in this content, where one group abrogates political power and imposes its language along with its institutions. Okay, next is about language deaths and language loss. Okay, the disappearance of Ipeneco is largely tied to factors such as urbanizations and the introduction of compulsory education in Spanish. However, it is generally true that when all the people who speak a language die, the language dies with them. Examples include Cheftic Essence that in 1992, Manx that in 1974, and Cornish that in 777. Less than half of the 250 until 300 Aboriginal languages spoken in Australia when the Europeans arrived have survived, and fewer than 2 dozen are being actively passed on to younger generation. And the process of language death for a language is similar to that of language shifts, where the functions of the language are taken over in one domain after another by another language. Okay, next is about the factors contributing to language shifts. So there are 3 points. The first point is economic, social, and political factors. Okay, the most important factors in language shifts is that the community sees an economic or political reason for learning the second language. However, if the community does not take active steps to maintain their active language shifts is almost inevitable. Without active language maintenance, language shifts is almost inevitable in many contexts. So the shift to another language is often driven by the social and economic goals of individuals and community. Okay, next. The second factors is demographic factors. Okay, demographic factors are important in determining the speed of language shifts. In rural areas, resistance to language shifts tends to last longer as rural groups are isolated from the centers of political power and can meet most of their social needs in the ethnic or minority language. For example, in New Zealand, Maori is now a language which can also be used between consisting adults and in Australia, the areas with the largest groups of Malton speakers had the lowest rates of shifts toward English, while Spanish has survived well in the USA, due partly to the large numbers of speakers and etc. Okay, the third factors is attitudes and values. Okay, language shifts tend to be slower among communities where the minority language is highly valued. Positive attitudes support effort to use the minority language in a variety of domains, and the status of a language internationally can contribute to these positive attitudes. Immigrants Greeks are proud of their contribution to Western philosophy and culture, and Spanish has international prestige, but it cannot offset the attitudes of the local community to Crystal's family oddness. Okay, next is about how can a minority language be be maintained? So minority language groups are more likely to maintain their language if it is seen as an important symbol of their identity. So social factors such as participant and setting can help versus economic pressures. Institutional support is essential for minority group language maintenance. Governments can legislate for its use in all domains such as education, law, and administration, religion, and the media. However, Howard Giles and his colleagues suggest that we can predict the likelihood of language maintenance by measuring its ethnolinguistic vitality, which involves three components. There are three components. The first one is the status of the language. The second one is the size of the group who use it, and the third is the extent to which the language enjoys institutional support. So the concept of ethnolinguistic vitality is useful for studying language maintenance and safe, as well as for those interested in slowing down or reversing language shifts. Okay, so guys, next is about language revival. Okay, the success of attempts to revitalize a language depends of the level of language loss, but it's more important to consider attitudinal factors such as how strongly people want to revive the language and their reason for doing so. Hebrew was revived in Israel after being effectively dead for nearly 70 100 years due to strong feelings of nationalism. Welsh was a flourishing language in the 19th century, but was overwhelmed by English immigrants and the depression of the 1930s. By the 1980, only 20% of the population spoke the language, but the rate of decline has become less rapid. In 2001, the census report an increase in the number of young people speaks Welsh, and in 2004, survey reported that 20% of the sample could speak Welsh and 57% considered themselves fluent. So to slow down language loss, many Welsh people have taken steps such as obtaining a Welsh language television channel and establishing successful bilingual education programs. So, however, the success of these programs may be under threat due to economic situation, economic situation of the English. And then economic factors are likely to be important in assessing the long-term outcomes of efforts at language maintenance and revival. Okay, guys, I think that's all for my explanation about this material. I'm sorry for if I have mistake when I explain this the material. Okay, guys, see you in the next video. Bye.